Fire away. Questions?
What's your initial reaction to this verdict? Obviously, it's not what you expected.
No, it's certainly not what we expected. Disappointed in the verdict, but we're very mindful of the fact that the true tragedy here is the death of Anasan Fanavong. That is not something that Ms. Sensor or her family has ever taken lightly. She is has struggled with her inability to talk to the family at this point. And I know that what she wants more than anything else is to express her condolences to that family, to his family.
Will she be able to do that at sentencing?
Yes.
She will?
I hope so.
What was her reaction to the court? I mean, it stayed in there for a while.
Well, it's difficult because I firmly believe in Ms. Sensor's testimony that she did not see him, that I've gotten to know her over the course of the last 8 months, and she is not the type of person who would knowingly leave a man in the road to die. She's a wonderfully kind person, and this is a tragic event.
You made a compelling case that there is no evidence to prove these things, and yet the jury decided differently. Any thoughts on why they may have reached those conclusions?
I don't ever try to speculate into their minds. I think that it is obvious that it was a difficult decision for the jury to reach. Obviously, I think they were there at over 20 hours deliberating, and it was not an easy decision for them. And I'm sure, and as you probably all saw, that decision weighed heavy on some of their hearts as well.
Back here, when they walked in, did you notice there was a juror in the back who was crying?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
Well, it's an emotional process for everyone who's involved, not just Ms. Sensor, not just the Fanavong family, but for these jurors too. These jurors have invested a substantial part of their lives. You know, they've been here for the last 2.5 days deliberating, basically, and then on top of that, they were here for another week before that listening to testimony. And I don't fault the jurors. I don't fault the system. I don't think that this is a miscarriage of justice by any stretch of the imagination. It is a decision that they made. Obviously, we will appeal certain decisions that I think the court made. Ms. Sensor got a fair trial. She got a fair opportunity to be heard, and I'm disappointed with the decision, but we will move on.
Did you think that her status, her public profile, had anything to do with, you'd mentioned in your closing that you felt that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office was trying to make an example out of the Sensors? Do you still think that's it?
Absolutely.
You obviously haven't spoken to jurors yet, but looking back on it, what do you think was the most damning evidence against your client?
I have no idea. It's hard to say.
Eric, do you think there's any legal precedent set here with these decisions about notification?
Well, that's something that we've been fighting about and arguing about for months at this point. What does notification mean under these particular laws? And that will be a central focus in the appeal, certainly with respect to count 2.
Eric, you entered a lot of things into the record during this trial that the jury didn't hear. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you'll base your appeal on, for instance, the toxicology? Well,
that's certainly a key component of it. The notification requirements under Subdivision 6, Count 2, those are things that will, and then just simply the El Nasir decision in terms of the probable cause motion.
The law doesn't spell out specifically what notification is.
Well, I beg to differ. I think that it does. I think that under different subdivisions of the law, there is a notification requirement, but not this one. This is a different type of a notification.
What you're saying, though, is you believe that counted as notification.
Absolutely.
Because that statute doesn't say what the requirement is, so therefore you felt that met the requirement. So that's what it's getting at.
Sure, precisely, yes. When the Sensor family surrendered the vehicle on August 24th, I believe that satisfied the law under the charges that she was charged with.
The law doesn't say the driver has to come back in.
The law says that the driver has to provide notification of the accident. It doesn't say that they have to give their name. It doesn't say they have to give any other information. They simply have to provide notification of the fact that there was an accident.
Prison time's inevitable, yes?
No, not necessarily. I mean, certainly that's another motion that we'll make is the guideline sentence, I believe, in this case would call for a 48-month prison sentence. Because the jury acquitted her on count 3, I don't think that there is a basis for what's called a Hernandezing argument to extend that prison time anymore. So I think she faces the 48 months in prison, and we'll certainly ask the court not to send her to prison, and the court certainly has that discretion not to do so.
Do you think a downward dispositional departure?
Say that again?
How is Amy dealing with the prospect of going to prison?
Well, that's a reality that she has to face. I have no reason to believe that the court wouldn't consider that as a possibility. I think that she's prepared for that possibility, but it certainly scares her.
Where's Amy?
She is on her way home.
Do you think public opinion influenced this verdict at all?
It's hard for me to say. I believe that the jury should have been sequestered during the course of this trial. I believe that that even perhaps unintentionally exposed jurors to a lot of media attention, and that that could have had an influence.
If you are going to go for a downward departure, then?
Of course.
Eric, at the very end there, I noticed that both Amy's answer and you stood very still. She was composing herself. When you finally sat down in the chair, you leaned over and started talking to her. Can you share, did you give her words of encouragement? Did you say anything to try and... she smiled at one point. It seemed like you were trying to...
Well, she was not taken into custody at this point, and that was a relief to her. And that's what we were talking about.
Did Judge Madeley say why he made that decision?
No. I didn't have any conversation with Judge Madeley about that decision.
I noticed she and her husband were stone-faced in the beginning, not any immediate emotional reaction that we could see. Can you share how she felt at first? Was it shock or anger?
Fear? No, not anger. Not at all. Fear, shock. She has insisted that she didn't see him, and she wants the world to believe that that's the truth. And when you're not apparently believed about that, that's difficult.
How's she going to spend the next 2 months?
I don't know. I'm sure that she'll spend a lot of time with her girls and keep focusing on trying to have a somewhat normal life over the next 2 months. Prepare for sentencing, and what comes will come.
Did you guys always know you were going to let her testify?
Say that again?
Did you always know you were going to let her testify? Do you have any reservations about it?
No, I had no reservation about it. And yes, that was a decision that was made months ago.
How do you think that impacted the jurors took? I know you can't read their mind, but how do you think she did on the stand?
I think it was compelling testimony.
What would you do different?
I don't know that I could do anything different.
How were the last 48 hours for Amy? How was that with the jury?
Stressful. Extremely, extremely stressful. But she was surrounded by friends and family, and a lot of people were there to support her, and we got through it. But it certainly was a long, long, long time.
Were you guys optimistic the longer they were out?
I never try to gauge or guess what a jury's doing based on how long they're out. It obviously reflected a disagreement amongst the jurors, but you never know. I mean, that's the mystery and the beauty of this process.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.